Intercultural engagement. I didn't mean for that.
Guys, we're going.
Oh.
Okay. So this is Team Marks, formerly Discussion Group 2, and we are here to discuss, can pop music be art? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think, in my opinion, it depends on what you're looking, like I was telling them before. If you are just like the general public and you have no knowledge of how the music industry works and how many different things go into it, as far as if you're one of those people that think that the performers write all of their own songs, then yes, you may think that pop music is art. But knowing that there's someone out there who writes the songs and then someone who tweaks the songs and auto-tunes it or whatever, all the way before it gets to the performer and then is then a commodity, then I don't believe that it is art anymore. I think it's more of a commodity.
Yeah, like I think part of the things we got sort of distracted in class when you were talking about whether or not it all sounds the same, because of course it doesn't actually sound the same, but the thing is they all are the same, regardless of whether or not they sound the same. They're created for the same purpose, marketed using the same tools, and they have the same effect on people.
Mm-hmm.
Where they talked about in the reading where it now serves as a distraction. It's not there to make you think, it's there to make you not think.
Yeah.
And sort of like the worker only feels himself outside his work, it's there to keep you outside of yourself instead of making you feel whole as yourself. And so I think that's one of the reasons why you can't really classify it as art, is because it's not made for the same purpose that art would be made. It's made to reify societies and society's values and not to make you question anything.
Mm-hmm.
Even stuff that's like out there, like when we're talking about like how protest songs aren't really protest songs, because as soon as you buy them, you're not protesting the system, you're directly contributing towards the system. And also, you don't listen to a protest song and then go protest. You listen to a protest song to feel like you've already protested by
Yeah.
listening to the protest song. So it's there to distract you from doing things, I think, in a lot of ways. But I don't know if anyone would agree with that.
I do, and it's such a commodity that when songwriters are like getting a song together and they know about different artists that are out there in the market for purchasing a song, they focus on what the artist's brand is and kind of stick to that. So there's really, it's almost like there's no spontaneity.
Yeah, no, it's all like carefully tailored,
Yeah,
and
it's very much crafted like a product.
yeah.
Not a whole lot of room for change, and I guess that's part of the reason why we're starting to feel like music is starting to feel or sound the same, because everyone's starting to kind of get into this sort of niche where everyone's writing towards a specific sound and wanting to play towards specific artists and musicians. I don't know, they're, I guess to a point, afraid to want to try something new because they know that this is what works.
Yeah.
So they don't want to try to go in any specific new direction because they don't want to lose their bottom line.
Well, a lot of pop music has gotten increasingly explicit over the years, and I mean, I don't know if that ties along with the whole sex sells philosophy of, marketing your products, but
Well, sex is always sold.
yeah, I just it reminds me of the comment, a commodity for a society driven by commodities. Just like the reason that it all may sound the same is because they're trying to tailor to what they think the public would respond to.
And even like the process in itself is alienating, where the people who actually make the item,
Mhm.
like when in the reading, the person who actually writes the song that Rihanna sings gets 1 million versus the several other
Right.
millions that Rihanna gets. So they're actually being kept away from the full profits of the work that they put in
Mhm.
to the item.
Right.
And yeah, most people don't even associate their name with the item and won't ever actually know.
And
you
that's
know?
almost that's alienation of product, but I
Mhm.
almost saw it as alienation of labor too, just because, like,
Okay.
imagine creating something that you're passionate about, but knowing that nobody will know. Well, not that nobody will know, but few people will know that you had much to do with it.
I mean, even like, oh, you
Well, a lot of it is, I guess, a combination of both, because in one of the articles that we had read, they do kind of amass a big stockpile of not hits that they just sort of
Yeah.
put away because they feel like that's not gonna be the one.
Right, they said
So, it's just a big, at the end of the day, I guess, waste of time, but even then, they can just sort of go back into the stockpile and then lift bits and pieces out of those songs and put them forward into the new, the one.
Mhm.
Just to hand off to somebody who has whatever face or whatever style that they want.
Didn't it say in like it was the 70s, they said that it was more like album created, like creating an album was more of the goal.
Yeah.
And
that's-
now it's more singles. And that, I mean, that first came to my attention, like, you know, when I watched like a Beyonce documentary, and stop laughing at me. And she made the comment, she was like, people don't make albums anymore, you know, they just go from one hit to one hit to the next hit, you know, like it's almost like it's not about being artwork anymore, it's about bringing in the money.
I think it has to do with people not going out and buying physical albums
Mhm.
anymore. People are buying everything digitally, and it's just you hear a song you like, you go find it, you buy it, or you've got
A lot of people don't even buy
yeah, I mean, you got
anymore.
Spotify accounts, Pandora, stuff like that
Uh-huh.
now too. So I mean, there's
There's-
Josie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a lot of friends who are like Rihanna fans. So once, like, I personally don't like her that much, but once I read the Esther Dean and Rihanna article, like, I was talking to my friends about it, and they were like, oh, even though she doesn't write her own songs, like, she still has to like convey that emotion
Yeah.
in the songs. So they were like, in that aspect, I would kind of see how it's kind of art because she's expressing it, and I was like, I still don't.
But even in like, okay, so before we started recording, we watched a clip of
Of Esther.
Esther Dean singing
S&M.
S&M that she wrote for Rihanna. And honestly, to me, other than the obvious differences in their voice, the way they portrayed that music was pretty much the same. Like, there was no Rihanna took it and like got creative with it kind of thing.
And then even if she did, would that make it art in general? Because we're not dealing with like, they're not defining it in the way art as in it makes you feel something. They're defining art as in its own like separate.
Original versus reproduction.
Yeah, that and like just being not only like a unique item that can't be mass produced, but also something that adds something new to like culture in general instead of just continually reifying it.
Yes.
Teacher question.
What?
If we're talking about it in the concept structure of original versus reproduction, wouldn't Esther be the original then?
That's exactly what I was gonna say next. I kind of jotted down something as I was like reading. Artists like Esther Dean, Darlene Love, Fanita James, Mary Clayton are, in my opinion, like the originals. And then the performers whose names go on their work are the reproductions. I don't know if that's correct or not, but that's the takeaway I got when I was reading some of this stuff.
I mean, yeah. Oh, that could work. Although either way, it is still like mass produced,
Mm-hmm.
and they're writing it to make a hit. You know, they're writing it to get that $1 million in a lot of the cases. So.
I mean, if I didn't want to be a performer, I would be totally okay with just writing songs and getting $1 million for something. Fine, cool. But like, Esther wanted to come out on her own, and she kept like trying, and they kept making it sound like it was gonna happen for her. And then I don't remember who the conversations were between, but he basically was just like, it needs to be someone who can, and I'm pretty sure I'm close with what they said. They need to be able to perform, to be the person everyone looks at when you walk into the room with all the publicity and touring, and then to be able to get that sound on the record. And that's not easy. I think that Esther was able to get the sound on the record easily.
But also, even with that, it's the going into like alienation of the worker from other workers, right?
Mhm.
Or the idea that we can only have like one, and that they can only, like production companies, only choose people that they think are going to make them the most amount of money as possible.
Mm.
So they're purposefully stifling art for the purpose of just creating commodities and capital.
Mhm.
So Dean probably should be able to be her own independent artist, but
They
because
already have Rihanna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and even on top of that, because she might be successful, but she won't be multi-million-dollar successful.
Mhm. If she were
So-
to come out now, it would look like she's the reproduction of Rihanna, and Rihanna would be the original.
Mhm.
Make sure this is still on.
I mean, I forgot who it was, like in the movie that we watched, but it was like she was trying to come out on her own, and it was like they had artists like Mariah Carey and Whitney and
It was Darlene Love.
I think it was Darlene, but I wasn't sure. But it was like she was making albums, but it was like she couldn't get to that fame point because there were other people out there who were already doing what she was doing. And I just
You know, those people build that fan base, and it's hard when they hear somebody similar to them to switch
right.
to a different musician, like in that case.
Yeah. I think a few years ago, I was watching, I want to say the VMAs, where like Nicki Minaj performed and Dave Grohl gave a speech, and it stuck with me, and he said it shouldn't be about like auto-tune and just coming up with the next hit record or whatever. It should be about perfecting your craft. And I think, I mean, he definitely had a point there. I recently went to the Foo Fighters concert at Greensboro Coliseum, and they performed like no other. I think they were prepared to go on for 4 hours plus. I had to leave like 3 hours in. I was like, I'm tired of being on my feet. But I mean, I don't want to say no other artist does that, but that's just dedication to your craft, like nonstop, because they've been doing this for 22 years. So they said, even throughout the concert, he kept reminding us, he was like, sorry guys, we got to do our songs back to back. We just got too many. He used some other language, but, and yeah, that's.
I feel like nowadays there's a lot of pressure on like the artists now, because I feel like it's to the point where people are getting compared to older artists.
Mhm.
Like, an example was the American Music Awards last night. You know, Christina Aguilera had to do a tribute for Whitney Houston, and everybody's like jumping on her because it doesn't sound exactly like Whitney's like rendition of "I Will Always Love You."
Mhm.
Obviously, it's Christina Aguilera is not Whitney Houston, so
Right.
obviously it's not going to sound exactly the same. So I feel like that's what a lot of the artists nowadays are dealing with. You know, it's like Chris Brown is like, people are like, oh, he's the Michael Jackson of this generation.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Like it's there's no
I
comparison
don't even see
whatsoever.
the connection between the two of those.
So I don't know.
No,
That's-
Chris
In the
Terrible.
reading, they said that too.
I would gladly
though.
trade those two.
They were like saying Lady Gaga's the new Madonna.
Yeah,
It's just like
it's not the same.
I think every generation, well not every, but it seems like in the last few decades they kind of just recycle like who's going to be who, or who's going to be the next generation's what kind of thing.
Mhm. Well, they do. They love predicting this sort of stuff in Hollywood and other industries because it's their game.
Well, trying to
They
figure
get
out how we're
bored.
going to make the money next, I guess. I had something else to say, but I forgot.
Sorry.
It's okay. No problem.